Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First off, I hope that everyone is having a blessed and beneficial month of Ramadan. I hope that your fasts are being accepted. All of our fasts are being accepted. I mean, the other day, a brother posted a video, and the video was of a woman. She was being interviewed. It was a white woman. She was being interviewed by this black woman. The white woman was some type of conservative, or she had conservative leanings. As I watched the video, she was, talking about why she didn't agree with liberalism. And she used the term woke. So as she began to move forward in her conversation, the woman stopped her. The black woman stopped her, and she said, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute. She said, I want to make sure that we are on the same page here. I want to make sure that we're understanding, or that we have the same understanding of terms. And always keep this in mind, too, because I do the same exact thing. We need to define terms because we all don't understand terms the same. She said, please define the word woke. And that woman stumbled and fumbled and mumbled for a minute and a half and said absolutely nothing. She could not define the word woke. Although this woman was actually an author, and she mentioned that she had an entire chapter or portion of the book dedicated to being quote unquote woke or wokeness, but she couldn't define it. And I find that to be a pattern. Oftentimes people will use terms, they'll throw terms around, but when you ask them to define it, they can't. I've been in many conversations where people use terms and I say, well, wait a minute, define what that means so that we are on the same page, so that I understand you and you understand me. Oftentimes they'll change the subject, they'll bounce around it, most of the time when that tactic is being used, I understand this person really doesn't know what they're talking about. And oftentimes they're speaking from sheer emotion and personal opinion. Anyway, this woman mumbled and fumbled and stumbled through the definition of woke. And it led me to think about how oppressors will redefine terms to meet their agenda. They'll redefine words, change the meaning of words, change the understanding and context of words. Woke, or being woke, is one of them. In the African American community, we understand what being woke means. If you ask the average African American, especially the older ones, and ask them, what does being woke mean? They can give you an intelligent answer. They can give you an answer that's based on history. They can give you an answer that makes sense. But the word woke has been weaponized. It's been commandeered and it's been weaponized. So now woke is this liberal nonsense that you hear. Actually, let me change that. Being woke has been commandeered by conservatives. Actually, let me change that. It's been commandeered by both sides. Both sides have used this term woke, or being woke, to fit their individual or their group agendas, rather. When we allow those who oppress to define words, to define terms, and to commandeer and take and pervert the understandings of terms and words that we understand in our community, And then we end up falling in line with the perverted version of the definition that only serves to set us back. We can't fall into the trap of allowing others to define for us terms, words, and most importantly, identity. When we look at this term woke, I mean, what does basic common sense tell you? You know, even just from a common sense perspective, you know, if somebody is quote unquote woke, that means they are not sleeping. You know, as a Muslim, when you're sleeping, the pen is lifted. You're not responsible for your actions when you're sleeping, when you're not conscious. So likewise, when you are woke or you are awake, that means that you are conscious to the reality. You are conscious. You can understand. You can comprehend. You are cognizant of the reality of whatever the situation is, whatever the issue is. You are woke. We understand this. We've used this term in the African American community for eons. It's not new for us. But when that term begins to gain momentum and begin to have power, and people tend to gravitate toward being quote unquote woke, being awake, being conscious, being cognizant, understanding the realities of whatever the issue may be, of course, the enemy can't have that. So they must commandeer it, change it, pervert it, and make it other than what it is. You know, you'll even find amongst Muslims who will make light of or make fun of this term woke. To be awake, to be aware, to be conscious, to have understanding of the realities of whatever the situation may be. But it's been perverted and changed and twisted into some deviant, a part of a deviant ideology. Actually, it's used by both liberals and conservatives. You know, as a Muslim, I'm neither. I'm not a Republican, a Democrat. I'm not a conservative or a Republican. I'm a Muslim. But I do understand how these terms, and I do understand how commandeering these terms affects my community. W.E.B. Du Bois talks about the double consciousness. I posit that as Black Muslims or African American Muslims, we have a triple consciousness. We have to know how to move effectively in America. But then we also have to know how to effectively and safely move in America, and oftentimes globally, as Muslims. So we have, as African American Muslims, a triple consciousness that we have to contend with. But I'll leave that for another day. And if you're curious about double consciousness, read W.E.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folks, and you'll understand what I'm saying then. I do find that oftentimes information is digested differently in different demographics of people. I see patterns in how people digest information. Oftentimes, information or how you're brought up, where you're brought up, how you grew up plays a huge part in how you even unconsciously digest information. There's an unconscious aspect of the digestion of information that oftentimes we do not recognize. I've seen it. I've seen the pattern too many times now. When information is being disseminated, I get certain reactions from certain groups and certain reactions from other groups. Oftentimes I get private messages that say, hey, X, Y, or Z, and then I'll get other messages from other demographics who are outside of the community who say A, B, and C. And there's a reason why. And I do believe that it's based on upbringing. It's based on understanding of history. It's multivariate. Uh, it has multiple variables as to why. It's not all one thing. It's not a zero-sum equation. But the difference in digestion, I understand that to be a fact. But back to my original message. Pay attention to how words are defined. Pay attention to who is defining words. And understand how those words are defined and understood in your own community. And go with that. Don't go with other people's definitions of words who are outside of your community. That's just my 2 cents. I thought that was pretty interesting watching her video. This woman was an expert. Supposedly she had written a book but couldn't define woke. Although she used it properly, she couldn't really explain it. I remember Shadid Muhammad said, if you can't explain it, that means you don't understand it. And I teach my children that. I'll ask them a question, and if they can't answer it, and they say, oh, but I understand. Well, if you can't explain it, you don't really understand it. We need to revisit it and make sure that you really and truly do understand it. So pay attention to definitions, pay attention to words, pay attention to who uses them, pay attention to how they use them. All of that has meaning. All of it plays a part in how people view you, how people see you. When you listen to what they say and how they say it, you can truly understand how people feel about you, just based on the terms they use and how they use it. Also pay attention to what they discredit or what they dismiss or what they belittle. Pay attention to what they hype up and what they support. It says a lot. It tells you who's who and what's what in your life. So that's my 12-minute rant. I will see everyone later. Please like and subscribe and let me know what you think. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.